Hi, I'm Siddhant, and this is how I turned a Marvel character into a Disney animated character, and you can do it too. So, it all started with this video from Corridor Crew, which showed me the endless potential of AI.
Big boss from Metal Gear Solid.
Yoji Shinkawa.
Oh my god. Wow! Hell. Yes! 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 Yes!
And from that day, I became hooked to this technology. From trying to install Stable Diffusion on my own PC, to training my own model to create AI avatar of myself, and finally to now being able to animate a Marvel character in the style of a Disney animated movie. So, the basic logic is, to animate anything you need multiple images of that character in a specific art aligned in a way that collectively creates an illusion of movement. And basically, that's what I did. I took a video, then converted it into PNG files, and then individually ran each and every frame of that video through Stable Diffusion's image-to-image interface with some particular settings. Then I stacked all the newly formed images frame by frame to form a nice looking video. But as you all know by now, the main problem with Stable Diffusion was that even though you get a nice looking picture that looks very close to the actual art form that you were aiming for, but getting a consistent design that resembles your original photo was really hard, and thus you were left with a video that kind of looked like an animation, but you won't call it an animation even by the lowest of the lowest standards. And this was the biggest problem that I faced while trying to make this video in the form of an animation, as sometimes the images after running through the diffusion model looked exactly like an animated art form, to the point that you might think that Disney himself designed these characters. But the problem with these generations was, though the art form was very good, but those generations didn't even look close to the original image, and so to make the final image look more like the original image, we mostly used to lower our settings, which ultimately gave us more consistent generations that were resembling the original image, but then the art form was getting sacrificed, to the point that sometimes the system generated exactly the same images that you have fed it into the system with hardly very minuscule resemblance to that art form that you originally intended to animate. And the reason why this happens, it is because this is how the Stable Diffusion model actually works. It looks at your image as a bunch of noise patterns and then tries to interpret an image out of it. It's basically like try looking at the clouds and then try to see what they look like. So as I explained, what the Stable Diffusion model is actually doing is that the moment I put the original image in the Stable Diffusion model and write a prompt, Black Widow, in the style of a Disney character. So what Stable Diffusion actually does is that it already knows how Black Widow looks like from the picture that you have provided to him. And because I am using a model that is trained in the art form of classic Disney characters, so the model also knows how a Disney character is drawn. So therefore, Stable Diffusion takes my picture and then put the noise on top of it and tries to create a Black Widow in the style of a classic Disney character, thus getting these beautiful pictures. But the problem is, Stable Diffusion usually changes the noise on each frame, which ultimately leads to really good looking individual images, but collectively are very inconsistent. Therefore, you cannot make an animation out of it, and that was the problem that I tried to solve, and this is how I did it. Before we even start, make sure you have a video that you want to animate and convert it into PNG form. Second step, install Stable Diffusion user interface. There are two ways of doing that. The first is to install Stable Diffusion on your own PC, which I highly discourage you to do. Why? Well, I already made a video on it, but to summarize it, if your PC has a GPU space of more than 8 GB, then go ahead, you can definitely install it on your PC. If not, don't even try. Just see, even while running it on a remote GPU, this is the amount of RAM and GPU space this model takes. The second way is to run the Stable Diffusion model through a remote GPU, and this is what I used. I was running Stable Diffusion on Google Colab notebook, which gave me access to their remote GPUs that are far superior to that of my crappy laptop. And for this process, I was using this Stable Diffusion Automatic 111 Web UI. You can find the link of this exact Colab notebook on my website, link down in the description. After installing Stable Diffusion, the third step is to install a Stable Diffusion model that is trained in that particular art style that you want your final output to look like. For example, I am able to achieve this style because I'm using a Stable Diffusion model trained in the art style of classic Disney characters as well as modern Disney characters. And that was possible all thanks to a guy named Nitrosock who created these different Stable Diffusion models that are specifically trained on different art style on this website called Hugging Face, and I used these two models to create these two videos. To install these models, all you have to do is first to make a Hugging Face account. After that, click on this link which is going to be provided down in the description, and it will lead you to this page. And I know to the non-coders, all of this could look really intimidating at first, but trust me, all you have to do is just follow the instructions step by step. So after landing to this page, ignore everything and head straight to File and Version folder and click on this CKPT file, and your Disney model will start to download. And if you want to install any other model, just repeat the same process as mentioned before. So, after installing all these essentials, we can actually start the installation. The first step is to open the Colab notebook that I previously mentioned and click on the very first play button. This will connect your Google Drive to your Colab notebook. Click on Run Anyway and connect to the Google Drive. Now you can see your Google Drive files over here. Second step, now click on the next play button and this will install the Automatic 111 repo. And after doing that, move to the next play bar. Here you will see the model download folder where we have to make some changes. By default, this Colab notebook is designed to run on Stable Diffusion 1.5 model, but we don't want that, as we want our images to be generated in a specific art form. Therefore, first of all, what you are going to do is upload all the Stable Diffusion models that you have downloaded into your Google Drive. Make sure to make a specific folder for all these models. Why? Because after uploading these files, when you go back to your Colab notebook and click on File, My Drive, we are going to copy the path of that folder over here. Therefore, you have to first upload all the models onto your Google Drive in a specific folder, then go back to your Colab notebook, click on File, My Drive, and then click on that particular folder in which you have uploaded those models, copy the path, paste it here and hit Run. After that, go down to Control Net, hit Run. You don't have to change any settings over here. After that, go down to start Stable Diffusion. Now this is where your Stable Diffusion UI would actually start to run, and this step will definitely take some time, so be patient with it. You will not see the green tick over here. Rather than when all the preparations are being done, you will see down here this particular URL. Click on here and it is going to divert you to this Stable Diffusion user interface where the actual magic happens. So till here, most of the brunt work has already been done, and from now on the actual magic happens. So in the top left corner, you will see all the models that we are gonna use in our animation. And below it, we got all the technical shenanigans that are gonna help us in refining the final process even more. For example, with this image to image function, the Stable Diffusion allows you to transform an image of your own choice into the style of the prompt that you type. So in here, the first thing that we are gonna do is load our first image onto the image folders. Then we are going to click on Interpret Image. This function would basically describe our image in the form of a text prompt. After that, in the place of a person, you would write a classic Disney style person, which is actually the token name for our Disney style Stable Diffusion model. A token name is nothing but a word that tells the Stable Diffusion model to put that classic Disney style in which it was trained in onto that image. And after doing that, the final result that you will get would be the photo of Black Widow in the style of a classic Disney character. How cool is that? But as I mentioned before, to create a consistent character, some things need to be changed, and to do that, as you go down, you will see some functions, and the first thing that you will notice in the top left hand corner is the sampling step. This very function tells the Stable Diffusion model how many times it should run the picture through the prompt, and the basic rule of thumb is the more the sampling steps are, the more the details in your end result will be. The second thing to consider is the width and height of your image. This is important because Stable Diffusion is a model that is trained on an image set with the resolution of 512 by 512 pixels. To put it simply, whenever you upload an image in your Stable Diffusion model, it interprets it in the form of multiple individual blocks of 512 by 512 pixels, and that is the main reason why you get sometimes multiple characters in your final image while the original image only had one character, because the model is studying your whole image in the form of small squares of 512 by 512 pixels. And related to this very point, you should also keep in mind that your original image only contains the subject that you want to be animated, because if there are too many objects in the background, the Stable Diffusion will read the whole image in the small chunks of 512 by 512 pixels of squares. Therefore, it is going to read those extra objects as individual characters, thus giving you multiple characters while the actual image only had one person. Now, after correcting your image resolution, we come to CFG scale. It is nothing but how much you want the output image stick to your text prompt. What I have found out is that by leaving it at the default setting, it works most of the time. So don't really try to change it. And after that, we move to the denoising scale. The denoising scale gives guidance to the Stable Diffusion as to how much the underlying original picture get used in the new iteration. The higher the number, the more noise is added and less the underlying picture is followed in the next loop. And lower the number, the less your image is gonna change. Personally, I keep the denoising relatively low because on higher values, yes, definitely the outcome looks more like the art form, but at the same time the AI also get wild and the final output image looks nothing like the original one. So therefore, I would prefer keeping your denoising scale on a lower side. And after adjusting all these settings, the most important factor in getting a consistent character is saving the seed. What is the seed? You see, each image that is being generated by Stable Diffusion has an individual identity number attached to it called its seed number. So therefore, by mentioning that seed in your image-to-image generation, you tell the Stable Diffusion to create all the other images in the same art style as shown in that seed, thus getting consistent generations most of the time. So after saving the seed, all you have to do is go to batch to batch image option, paste the path of your input file where all the original frames of your video are saved, and also the path of the output file where the final output pictures are going to be saved, and then press play. By the way, a quick note to mention, please do not upload the file directly from your PC. It will definitely show an error. Rather than create a separate folder in your Google Drive and then upload your original input images over to there and then copy that path in your Colab notebook. Whoa, that was a lot of information to take on all at once. Therefore, I even made a written version of this whole tutorial mentioning all the important key points and steps that are essential for this to work onto my website, theAIisfuture.com, so that you could always go back to that blog whenever you are stuck rather than watching this whole video again and again. So, to summarize, step 1, upload the frames that you want to animate and make sure there aren't many things in the image except the subject that you want to animate. Step 2, adjust the number of steps to 50. Now, step 3, keep the CFG scale close to default option. Step 4, denoising strength. Keep your denoising step relatively low if you want your final image to look more like the original image, which I think you want if you are trying to make an animation out of it. Now, finally, after you are happy with all the settings that you have done and the final output that your generation is getting, make sure you save the seed of the best image of that particular generation. And after that, finally, click on Image Batch Image tab and paste the path of the input and output file from your Google Drive, not your PC, and hit Generate. Some important points to keep in mind. After clicking off Generate, if you don't see any activity on your screen, don't panic. Just go onto your Colab notebook, and if you see some images showing in your output folder, the program is running well. You don't need to panic. Second point, don't use restore phase if you are going for an art style that is more close to an animation, for example a Disney character or an anime, because it will try to make it more human-like, which would look kind of uncanny, and you don't want that. On the other hand, if you are going for an art style that more resembles like a Pixar movie or the modern Disney animation style, then definitely restore phase is going to help you a lot. So use it wisely. And finally, after going through all of these steps, step by step, you will end up with your animated images, which you could bunch them together in After Effects to make a video. But even then also, the final image will have a lot of flicker, and because of which it cannot be said as an animation. So to resolve it, there are three ways. The very first one is free, easy, but also the least effective. The second method is kind of paid but more effective. But the third method is the code, the best. It's the amalgamation of all the three methods and will take the most amount of time. But trust me, the results that you are gonna get from this very method are just the best. So in the first method, you install this free software by the name of AB Synth, which uses AI to animate your whole video by taking just few pictures of that art form as a reference. In this method, you import all the PNG frames of your video that you want to convert, and then you take the best image, the art form, and put that frame in here. And after that, just press play. And this software does all the hard work for you. And after processing all these images, you are left with a smooth video with no flicker. But this software has one very huge flaw, that is, it works great with the shots that have one single character with very less movement. But as you add multiple characters and complex movement in your shot, the program simply breaks, and therefore its usage is quite limited. And so we go to a second method where we are gonna use this software by the name of DaVinci Resolve and apply that deflicker plugin on a final generated video, which is going to give you far better results than Etsy. And sorry, I can't demonstrate it right now because currently I don't have this software, but I personally have seen how effective this deflicker plugin actually is. And now comes the code, the Giga Chat, the most effective method to get the consistent generations in the art form that you want, that I know of right now. So in this method, what you actually do is you take your image and you take the art form in which you want your final output image to be, and then you train a custom model of yourself with the art style that you want your final output to be. No, we are not creating two separate models, but one custom model of you, the main character, and the artwork in which you want the final output to be. And by doing that, what we get is a custom model of yourself or the main character in that particular art form. Why go to such far length? Simple. If you want to make the image sequence consistent, then you need to make Stable Diffusion familiar with not only your images but also our art style. And by creating a custom model in the specific art form that we want, what we get is a beautiful final output that not only looks like an animation but is also consistent with your expressions, your pose, and the movements of your character. I learned this method from the Corridor Digital, the same people who ignited the fire of AI inside of me. If you want to learn even deeply about it, you can go to their website where they have posted a full-length tutorial breaking down how they created an animation with a video using AI. I'm still experimenting with this method. Currently, I am able to train my own AI model, but I don't know how to train my model with a specific art style, because even in that tutorial, they showed how they trained their model on a PC, which I simply can't, as I already had told you the reason why. So I'm training this model on this Colab notebook, and if any of you guys have figured this out, please share your solution in the comment section below. By the way, if you have a really powerful PC, then you can follow the Corridor Digital tutorial on their website. If not, don't even try to run Stable Diffusion on your PC. Use Google Colab and share your findings with us. So, after running your video frames through this custom Stable Diffusion model by following all these steps step by step, you are going to be left with an animation that is consistent, that is close to the art form, and in general, an animation of which you are proud of. And at last, I just want to say, I know AI art is not the real art, but a cheap copy of an actual artist's work. And I'm definitely not going to defend AI in any way, but the harsh reality is that AI is now becoming an integral part of our society, and we can't do anything to stop it. As this tweet put it quite perfectly, it's not the AI that's going to replace people, it's the people using AI going to replace the people who don't.